Bluff City Media presents Tigers Live with Francis Carlota. Join Francis after every Memphis Tiger game as he breaks down each matchup, player of the game, and upcoming games. Now, let's get to the show.
Let's go. Yo, what's going on? Welcome to Tigers Live. I am Francis Carlota, host of Tigers Live for Bluff City Media. Y'all, what a win. What a MFing win. I was going to curse, but I'm not going to get too vulgar right now. What an MFing win, y'all. Let's go. Memphis beats Ole Miss 87-70 at home in a raucous FedEx Forum that got really loud in the second half. That crowd was really up in the second half. So shout out to the crowd. Shout out to this Tigers team, y'all. They played their hearts out. This was the most energetic, the most effort, seemingly the most motivated, really, since maybe the UConn game, maybe the Clemson game. Obviously, they started well against Clemson as well, but this team looked ready to go from the moment the ball got tipped. This team played. This is probably one of the best games they played, top to bottom, straight up. That's a fantastic win for the Memphis Tigers, 87-70 over the number 16 ranked Ole Miss Rebels. I'll be joined by Roman Cleary in just a moment, the beat writer for Bluff City Media. And later on, you will also hear the full post-game press conference from Memphis head coach Penny Hardaway. You also will likely hear from Ole Miss coach Chris Beard as well. So you'll get the full post-game press conference from both coaches. You'll hear their thoughts, and then afterwards, we'll talk about that entire game. Look forward as well after we hear the press conference. But y'all, what a game. What a win for the Memphis Tigers. Shout out to everybody in the comments. Shout out to everybody who have tuned in to Tigers Live. What a win. I see all the Go Tigers goes. I see it all. Go Tigers, go. Let's go, y'all. What a win. Shout out to 2 times here. Great game for the front court. Absolutely. We'll get into the full recap in a bit, but yeah, the front court, they were, well, against Mississippi State, they were soft. Penny said they were soft. He said it to their faces on the bench that they were soft against Mississippi State. Not today, y'all. They were far from it. They were men amongst boys, no question. And yeah, again, shout out to everybody here in the comments. Grizz Girl 179 leaving the forum now. Be safe leaving the forum. But hey, it's always good to leave the forum after a W, whether it's a Grizzlies win or a Tigers win. Yeah, great stuff. This was a great game. I'm willing to state that this is their second best performance of the year. I think their first is to beat UConn in Maui against a really good UConn team, but I think, just off the top of my head, I think this is their second best performance of the year. I mean, just looking at the box score, looking at how well they moved the ball, they limited turnovers to a solid extent today as well. This was a very complete performance from top to bottom. So as I wait for Roman to get into the stream, let's go into the recap here to talk about this one from start to finish. Again, it's no secret to anybody that starting the game, it's massive for Memphis to get off to good starts, and that's exactly what we saw. They got off to a really good start to start this ball game. And I see that Roman has joined the stage. So let me go and add Roman. Give me 1 sec. Roman Cleary, what's going on?
Hey Francis, how you doing?
I'm well. I'm feeling good after a really good win. I was saying earlier before you came on, I think this is their second best performance throughout the entire season. I give it number 1 to UConn, just the magnitude of the game. But this game, you can even swing if you want, Roman, to state this was their best performance. What do you think?
No, I'd say this was their overall best outing from start to finish, especially on the defensive side of things. The intensity that we saw from Memphis on that end of the floor specifically is something that I don't think we've really seen from them all year. Like, just that much fire, that much passion, that much, attention to detail. I mean, the three-pointers that we've been seeing Memphis give up all year, they mostly just didn't happen for the most part. They protected the rim extremely well. You had Jourdain blocking shots, Cisse obviously blocking shots. I think Danger got one. Colby Rogers even had a block in this game, I believe. So everyone was just super active and super energized on that end, and I think that really set the tone for what we saw here today.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. You can definitely claim me, Roman, that this was their best performance. I mean, you mentioned their blocks, their rim protection, 9 blocks for the team. Jordan had 3, Cisse with 3. Yeah, Danger with 2, Rogers, like you said, with 1. It was defensively, I think, it's their best defense performance of the year. Going into the game, Roman, you probably noticed, but they were ranked 202nd in defensive efficiency from the stats that I saw. So defensively, they've struggled a lot, but it was good to see them start the game with a real concerted effort on the defensive side and to do a better
Well,
job of the water off from Ole Miss too. Go ahead, Roman.
you mean you say Memphis was 250?
I saw them at 202, 202nd in the country defensive efficiency.
They were
So
54th in adjusted defensive efficiency in Ken Palm. And what
gotcha.
adjusted defensive efficiency is, like, that takes in like the competition you played and everything like that. Like it actually like puts those numbers into context and compares it to the competition that you fared against. So when you factor those in, Memphis is I guess a sub 50 defensive team, which still isn't ideal. It still isn't great, but Memphis, I think we've always known that it has the talent to perform well like it did today on that end of the floor, but it just hasn't been able to put it together. I do like that it just seemed like they kind of went back to the basics, back to the fundamentals a little bit defensively. You didn't see nearly as much zone, nearly as much switching or overhelping or anything like that. It really seemed to me anyway that they adopted the simple approach of, guard your man, guard the ball, and see what happens. And I think Memphis was quite successful in that endeavor overall.
Yeah, I agree. They really did a better. I didn't see a lot of overhelping from Memphis, like you said, very little zone. They pressed them at right times as well. I mean, they did a great job guarding the Ole Miss's guards. And Matthew Morrell only had 7 points on 3 of 11 shooting. Jalen Murray 12 points on 4 and 12 shooting. Memphis did a really good job stifling the talented guards that Ole Miss has. So I was talking about the start of the game for Memphis. They got up to such a good start. I saw you tweet about it as well. What did you see from their start that energy-wise that really gave you hope for the rest of this ball game?
I mean, there's nothing too specifically to say on that. It's just the energy and the effort itself, I think, kind of tells the story there. They were the more active team on both ends of the floor. I know Ole Miss kind of got on that run at the end of the first half to make it closer, but Memphis was far and away the better team, I think, from pretty much the start of this game. I think Ole Miss was held at 28% shooting in the first 12 minutes. And when, Memphis was up by 13 in the first half for a reason. And, Ole Miss, credit to them, they had some timely shot making that was able to get them back into it temporarily. But, Memphis, credit to them, they made some really nice adjustments at the half, settled back in, and Ole Miss never really had a chance after that.
Yeah, it kind of felt like the inverse of the Mississippi State game, where Memphis really never had any semblance of control against Mississippi State. Whereas today, Memphis had all the control against Ole Miss. Even like you said, when Ole Miss cut the lead to about 6 in the first half, even when they tried to make a mini run in the second, Memphis still had full control. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Memphis never lost control of this game. I mean, they literally led from wire to wire. They didn't trail for a single second of this game. This game wasn't even tied after it was 0-0. Memphis led the entire way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what matched up well with this team. Given they have the ball hard,
Sorry, Francis, I can't really hear you.
Oh, can you not hear me?
I can't hear you right now. I don't know if the chat can right now. You're kind of muffled.
Ooh,
so
okay. I apologize.
You're back. You're back.
Okay, I'm good. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry about that. So as I was saying, Timo said Memphis matched up really well with this team, given they have smaller guards. I think Memphis struggles with teams with bigger guards. Do you agree, Timo, that this was a better matchup than Mississippi State for Memphis?
Oh yeah, no, Ole Miss was definitely a much better matchup for Memphis personnel-wise, but I think it has less to do with the bigger guards and more so just to do with the front court overall. Ole Miss just didn't have the presence down low to give Memphis the kind of trouble on the glass that Mississippi State did. Therefore, Memphis was able to largely control the rebounding game for pretty much the entire way. mean, Cisse got whatever he wanted. Jourdain got whatever he wanted. Danger feasted down low late in this game, even with the foul trouble that he dealt with pretty much throughout. You know, Memphis had the better bigs in this matchup, and I think that's what ultimately this came down to, in a sense.
Yeah, I agree. The front court was phenomenal. Just outmatched Ole Miss. I mean, especially when the Ole Miss player, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head, Mikael Brown-Jones, when he got ejected from the game, that made Ole Miss's front court even thinner. And they really just dominated themselves on the board. Nate, Danger, Cisse, both were phenomenal. On the offensive side, we talked about how good they looked defensively. Roman, what did you like from the offense today that maybe was missing in the past, especially against Mississippi State?
Well, if we're talking about what's been missing in the past, you got to go with Colby Rogers, right? I mean,
yeah,
he scores 28 points on 10 of 16 shooting from the field, 6 of 9 from 3. And this was after he scored, I think, 5 combined points on 1 of 19 combined shooting against Virginia and Mississippi State. If you want to know what's been missing from the offense, it's been his scoring, his production. Memphis got it back today, and subsequently they had one of their better offensive days of the entire season. I don't know if it's their best offensive performance, but I might argue that it was their most efficient overall. I mean, they were getting buckets both at the perimeter and inside. You haven't really seen a performance from Memphis where they were able to get their way, and both of those areas specifically. I mean, Tyrese Hunter didn't even have his best of days scoring. I believe he finished with like 4 points, but you didn't even really feel that. It hardly even mattered because not only with Rogers stepping up, but Haggerty putting up his usual numbers, Danger putting up a big scoring number, Moussa Cisse doing everything. He finished with a double-double in this game. Like, it was obviously Rogers was the star catalyst here, but all sorts of guys coming in from all sorts of different areas to contribute. I think, definitely made this a very nice offensive performance overall for Memphis.
Yeah, absolutely. No question. I mean, shout out to Wayne Kelly as always. Nick Jourdain, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 blocks. He's always my wild card. Yeah, Jourdain was fantastic against Ole Miss today. He really was the Swiss Army knife that I've talked about many times on this show that we know he can be. And it's no secret that Jourdain had struggled a lot over the past few games for a while. He's really struggled to find his rhythm, find his flow. But he had a great game today for sure. So shout out to Jourdain as well. So I asked you the question about what did Memphis have on offense today that they had been missing before against Mississippi State, against really even Virginia. Yeah, they won, but they still weren't that great on the offensive side. And I think the big thing for me was just better ball movement. They had 15 assists today, and they really did a good job moving the ball, finding the open man, and generating good looks for them on the offensive side. When Ole Miss made that run in the first half to make the lead closer, that's kind of when Memphis's ball movement became super static. They kind of just stopped moving the ball. I said that around the 12-minute mark in the first half, Memphis had 7 assists. Well, they finished the half with 7 assists, Roman. Like that, getting generate another assist for the rest of the half. And then to start the second half, it was clear that they were trying to get the ball moving again. They had 5 assists within about 6 minutes of the game in the second half. So they did a good job moving the ball throughout the entire game. So I think that's a good recipe for Memphis to generate better offensive looks. And they did a better job, not going to say a good job, better job with the turnovers. They had 13 today, which is a little slightly below their season average. So I'll take that as a win with the turnover front. But was your player of the game, Roman, B, Colby Rogers, or you're willing to give it to anybody else, or is it Colby?
I mean, I think you just have to say Colby by default because of how much he changed the game, especially on the offensive side, his very timely shot making, not just the shots that he made, but at the times he made them that felt particularly crucial. But I think Moussa Cisse deserves more than an honorable mention here for what he did today. I mean, he clearly came into this one with something to prove. Filled up the stat sheet subsequently. He was easily the best player on the defensive side for sure. I mean, I almost want to give like a co-player of the game to both of them for how well they both played. But if I had to choose one, I think you just have to go with Colby because of the offensive numbers he put up today.
Yeah, I'm with you. As Michael Stahl said here, 3 words: Colby freaking Rogers. Those are three big words because Colby hit a lot of big threes today. He was the absolute man. Yeah, Colby's got to be player of the game. for me as well. I think your Musa shout is a really good point. Musa was fantastic. 13 points, 11 boards, 3 blocks, 5 of 8 from the free throw line too. You know, he hit some free throws when needed today as well. Musa was fantastic. What is it, Roman, for you about Musa that you thought led to him playing this well? Was it extra motivation? Was it playing against his former team? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure the extra motivation associated with playing against his former school had something to do with what he did today. But I just thought he was in better position today. He wasn't nearly as wildly, just overall with his play as he's been in the past. He was in proper position to block shots. He was in proper position to get rebounds. He just found himself in the right spot at the right time more often than not. And when a guy like Musa Cisse is able to do that, then, you're going to find yourself, in a good spot overall.
Yeah, I agree. I think
excuse me. I see Chris Beard on the way here, so I think I'm happy to go.
Okay. All right, Roman. Thank you, man. Talk to you soon.
Of course. No problem.
Appreciate you. All right. That was Roman Cleary. As you know, he got to do his press duties. He's got to go cover the game and for Bluff City Media, the phenomenal job that he does. If you don't read his stuff for Bluff City Media, you're missing out. He's one of the best beat writers, probably the best beat writer in my mind. No offense to anyone else out there, but I think he's the man. So shout out to Roman Cleary for joining the show, giving his thoughts on the game. I'll go back to the recap before we throw it to the FedEx Forum for the post-game press conferences from Chris Beard and Penny Hardaway. I do want to go back to the start of the second half because you hear it all the time from coaches that whenever the first 5 minutes of the second half are huge, are big moments. And Memphis did a great job of extending the lead to start the second half by moving the ball really well, by getting everybody involved and continuing to play awesome defense as well. So they really did a good job coming out the gate. They didn't lack energy. They never looked slow. They never looked lethargic like they have in the past. They just were locked in from top to bottom. I do see that Chris Beard has started, so let me send this to the FedEx Forum, and I'll talk to y'all in a bit.
A great person, talented player, going to be emotionally attached to this game. He was in our program last year. Just going down the line, last time Memphis played at home, lost to an SEC team, so it was very obvious from where I was sitting. They were emotionally attached to the game. We matched that part of the game for segments of the game, but nowhere near the 40 minutes that it would have required today to play better.
Chris, you mentioned they got off to a great start. You guys came back, cut it to 2 at the half. Then they kind of did it again in the second half. Were you surprised by what happened early in the second half, or what did you sort of attribute that to?
Disappointed, but not surprised. My thing, it's a player's game. We have to do a better job, embracing each possession. We've got some veteran guys that played a long time. It's just like they think everything's just going to be okay. And when you're playing against a team like Memphis, that, again, in my opinion, was emotionally attached to this game, you don't have that margin for error. But certainly the start in the first half and the start of the second half was really the difference in the game.
Chris, two-part question. Having coached with Cisse last year and seeing what he was able to do today, in what ways do you feel like he's a different player than it was last year? And then secondly, when Mikhail got the flagrant and was ejected, how do you feel like the inside game changed after it all after he went out?
Well, first of all, Musa, I'm a big fan of Musa. We got the Ole Miss job. He was the guy that we wanted to come in, kind of start the recruiting class. He worked really hard in our program last year. Nothing but praise to say about Musa as a person and as a player. I think what I saw tonight, and again, he's not my player anymore, but just my opinion, you asked the question. I think Musa is one of the best players in college basketball when he knows who he is and he does all the things that he can do well. And that's what I saw tonight. He rebounded, he run, he affected shots, made free throws tonight. He's worked really hard on that over the years. So, congratulations to Musa. He's a guy that I'll always pull for. Once a player in our program, always a player. He made a business decision like all players have the opportunity to do at the end of the season. But I've always been a fan of Musa. Second part of your question was about Mikhail. That hurt. Mikel was our most physical player. He can match up with their bigs the best. He was on the way to have a double-double tonight at 8 points, 7, 8 rebounds. Was going to be a big focal point of our second half game plan. And then, he can't play in the second half. So that hurt us, obviously.
The moral victories, but one of the silver linings today was that you had really good minutes from Cleary. How do you kind of evaluate his performance?
Yeah, I would agree with you. No moral victories. I thought our two freshmen played well tonight. Klafke played hard, energetic, played the game the right way, was aggressive on second catch, had a couple of freshman-type turnovers, but I'm more than willing to live through those moments with him because he's a talented player that impacts our team with his emotion, how hard he plays. And he, for the most part, he does what we need to be done, doesn't try to get outside of his role. I was also impressed with John Bowles' performance tonight. Again, playing against two grown men that have been playing for a long time here at Memphis, but I thought JB did some good things. Above all, I thought he competed, had a short-term memory, would make a mistake and came right back and had a positive impact in the game. So that was some positive. We're going to need those two freshmen to help us as we enter SEC play.
Conversely, that you didn't get really good minutes from Matt and Jamin, some of the veterans. How do you kind of get to them as you approach SEC play?
Yeah, those are questions for those players. I always thought in college coaching, we don't speak for our players. We got to coach better than we did tonight. We got to play better than we did tonight. But certainly there's some individual performances on this stat sheet that, we're not going to be successful, if 4 or 5 of our best players don't bring their A game. And so, but those are great questions for those players. Number 3, yeah, legitimate shooter. Give Penny a lot of credit for spacing this thing out. He's a shot maker, shoots with confidence, doesn't need a lot of time to get it off. I would tell you, though, Tyrese is a big reason why these guys get going. You think Tyrese played great tonight? I mean, hell yeah, he did. He didn't have to score 20 points tonight, and that's what a point guard does. Tyrese has worked really hard to develop into this, so I think he'll be a pro because he can play like a point guard. Maybe next game he drops 25 in here talking to you guys here in a couple of days. But tonight, from where I was sitting, he didn't have to score. He got his teammates involved. He played defense. I'm a big fan of Tyrese. Well, a lot of different players on the floor for sure in college basketball. I guess there's a couple guys returning, but not many. I know a little bit about last year's game because we obviously watched it in early preparation of this game. But, basketball is a game of making shots too. You got to make some shots. We made shots last year. Shouldn't have been the difference in the game, but it's obviously going to be the difference in the outcome. Our guys have got to embrace what it's going to be like playing on the road this year. We played at Louisville. We played at Memphis today. We got 9 of these coming in the SEC. But I certainly think, where the game's played has a little bit of impact on these 2 games we've had against Penny. No, I don't think so because we were prepared for this game. Our players understood that Memphis was going to be emotionally attached coming off a home loss. Players in the program that had personal motivation to play well. I hope not. When you start talking about wake-up calls, it's like you didn't understand what was about to happen. And so I can't say a lot, but I can tell you our guys understood that we felt like Memphis was about to play their best game of the season, and they did in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think all coaches have concerns until it's Monday night around 11 p.m. and you're holding the trophy. And I think with our concerns, yeah, it's no secret. It's Captain Obvious. We've got to figure out the rebounding game, get out rebounded tonight against a team that I don't think rebounding is Memphis' strength. Could be at some point with the talent they have and the coaching you have here. But right now, that was the game within the game, no doubt about it. That's a concern of mine. I think our physicality, we got a lot of shot makers. We don't have a Haggerty type guy on our team that's going to go demand the ref to call the foul. Aggressive downhill guy that wants the contact, seeks the contact. Victory is always going to favor the team that makes the most free throws, gets the most free throws. Tonight, Memphis plus 10 on free throws. Give them credit. They were the most aggressive team tonight for the majority of the game. Our segments of success in this game, I think, were when we were the most aggressive. But in a 40-minute game, the most aggressive team is always going to have the favor of victory. Yeah, it starts with their coaching. They set it up with the soft press. It's just kind of nagging on you. We had a couple mistakes, a couple freshman mistakes. I thought they were in the gaps really well. They were obviously playing a scout report on Juju early. If I'm not mistaken, they might have slid the scout report over to Matt later on. I think in the first half, probably a combination of some careless mistakes that we can absorb a couple, but we can't absorb. We can't be sitting there at halftime and have 7 or 8 turnovers. Second half, we did a better job at taking care of the ball. So we'll just have to keep working on that.
Felt like when you went to bowl, maybe it was an attempt to answer Cisse. I guess what went into your decision to play bowl, and how big of a piece could he be in the rebounding question?
Yeah, John Bowles a part of our rotation in terms of matchups and him deserving an opportunity. Got a lot of confidence in John. He played really well the game before Christmas in first half minutes. So somewhat of it's him just deserving the opportunity, the way he's been improving over time in Oxford. Tonight, matchups, of course, we had a little bit of foul trouble on the front end, but above all, John deserved that opportunity and made the most of it. If he continues to run his own race, which I'm confident he will, his role in minutes and opportunities should increase. I thought John came to play tonight. Sometimes with freshmen, you look at it, they're a little nervous, not scared. We don't recruit scared guys, but nervousness is a part of this when you play at this stage. And I didn't see that in John's eyes. He was playing really impressed. He made a defensive mistake and then came right back down on the court and got us a big basket. So short-term memory and the ability just to respond. And again, he's playing against grown men. Now, I don't know how old Dange is, and I know how old Musa is. These are grown men, and John Bowles out there fighting. So there's some positive tonight, no doubt. And the same with Klafke. Thanks. Happy New Year.
Okay, that was Ole Miss head coach Chris Beard. As soon as I see Penny Hardaway go to the microphone, I will send this to the FedEx form so you can get his full thoughts. Quick thoughts on what Chris Beard had to say. I'll hold that because Penny Hardaway is at the microphone.
Yeah, first I'm giving honor to God for the opportunity to have these 13 games. No easy games, all tough games from Ohio to La Tech, Arkansas State, obviously, San Francisco, UNLV, and then all of the big boys. Just unbelievable run to be 10-3 after this schedule. Every game was grueling. Every game was fatiguing. Every game was hard. And just kudos to the players for fighting hard every game to be 10-3. Secondly, the fans, what an unbelievable crowd to come out and support us after we pretty much laid an egg last week. We were fatigued, came off the road from Virginia, hit the ground running, doing Christmas events and things like that. And I probably had 2 hours of practice to get prepared for Mississippi State, who was an unbelievable team, and they beat us up really badly. And from that buzzer blowing, I knew when we got back from Christmas, it was going to be hard practices, and we went back to old school practices every day this week, and it paid off.
Coach, it was evident from the first 3 minutes of the game, the emotion impact of the players was different than the last game. Did you say to them or did they take it upon themselves to be more emotionally involved in the game?
No, I was as hard on them that I've ever been all year, all week. And it was a no-nonsense locker room and court all week. I just wasn't going to have it again because, this city supports us. And I felt like the crowd that we had, that we should have fought harder. Even if we missed shots, we should have just fought. And we didn't fight. And that is never going to sit well with me being from the city when it's about grit and grind. And all week it was grit and grind practices. So And then they understood where we made the mistakes. We showed them film and showed them where Ole Miss was going to come in and try to beat us up as well. And we answered the bell.
Penny, got right here.
Yep.
Obviously, win or lose today, I think you probably would have said the non-conference slate was successful. But after the way last Saturday went and going into conference play, if you would have lost, I guess just how important was it to get some of that momentum back and knowing this was maybe one of the last real impact wins you could have on the resume?
Yeah, obviously with the last 4 games being at Clemson, at Virginia, and then come home against Mississippi State and Ole Miss, you want to win all 4. But if you do 3-1, man, you're doing great. So today's game was, in my mind, was a must-win. That's why the practices were much harder, and we knew that we had to. That was our last and final chance at a quad 1, because that's the respect that Ole Miss gets right now. And then they're going to continue to play well. They're going to beat people at home. And that conference right now is the #1 conference in the country, looking at those teams over there. So they're going to beat people, this year. So understanding what it was, you couldn't go in with the momentum of a bad loss last week we didn't fight. And there are no moral victories. If you come out today and don't win, then you got to go on the road to FAU, which is going to be another T-shirt game where they're going to be in their pack and going crazy. We just couldn't afford it.
Coach, still in the back. Obviously, Musa Cisse, having played for your program, then the journey he's taken, playing at Ole Miss, and then playing again against his old team today. How much did his impact matter to the outcome of this one?
That was a huge impact, but I was in his ear all week. And it didn't take much because he was already motivated to play against his old team. But if Musa plays like that every single night, getting those rebounds, rim protecting, and scoring around the rim, it's going to be a great end of the year this year.
Coach, great win today.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And Kobe Rogers, this guy has been in a slump, but today he stepped up big time. What was it like to see your senior step up today, man?
No, it was great, man, because Kobe works harder than anyone on his shot, and he's his toughest critic. And for him to be 1 for 19 the last couple games with a bad loss to Mississippi State, he really was in a bad space mentally. We had a good talk this week a couple times, and for him to come out and stay aggressive because he's one of the best scorers in the country, best shooters in the country, and not lose his confidence and do what he did today against Ole Miss is great. That's his hard work paying off.
Explain when you said that you guys had an old school practice. Like, what exactly did you guys do differently?
We started off with 17s the first day, Christmas night. 17s like sprints. And we ran and ran and ran like the old school coaches used to do us, where it could have been punishment running because I just wasn't going to have anything other than us being in shape, ready to run. And it was all about hitting and physicality this week. It was nothing easy. If it was something easy, guys got kicked off the floor and we started over. And yeah, that was old school. It was some choice words all week for a lot of guys getting ready for this game.
When could you tell, or was there a moment you could tell, whether it was in the days leading up to today or at some point today, that Kobe had it?
Well, I know Kobe always has it because he did it to us last year. I don't think he missed 4 shots against us in 3 games. He just shot the ball really well, and he was in rhythm. So I know that guy is there. He has to understand that if he misses a shot, we don't care. Just play defense, rebound, box out, do all the little things to help us win. But I knew he was going to come back. That's just who he is. He's a scorer. He knows that. And when the first one went in, I knew that he was on his way.
Dante Harris makes his debut for you today. What'd you see out of him, and what do you expect his role to be?
Yeah, for him not to have played in a long time, he came in, on-ball defense was great. You know, he came in the game and got a shot clock violation because they tried to drive him, Murray, and he guarded him one-on-one and didn't need any help, and we got a shot clock violation. That's what's to come from him. He's one of the best defensive guards in the country. He pushes pace, and he's a leader. He's already talking in the practices, and he only had a couple practices.
Penny, would you say this is not just your most successful, but maybe most satisfying non-conference schedule, given everything that went into it?
Yeah, I would say, because last year being 11-2 with that schedule was really tough, going to VCU, going to Texas A&M, and then coming back playing Clemson, Virginia, and Vandy. But to go to Hawaii and playing the toughest field they've ever had, to play at Virginia, at Clemson, man, to have Missouri the first game, yeah, this is the most satisfying for sure because of how we had to do it without playing a lot of guys. I think that's what made it more difficult. We had to play the main guys 35, 36 plus minutes, and that's really tough. I've never had to do that before.
Hi, Penny, over here. Chris Beard was in here just a few minutes ago, and he noted multiple times how you guys were far more emotionally invested in this game than they were. Do you think that was true? And if so, why do you think that was?
That was absolutely true. It was true because we had a chip on our shoulders for how we played last week. Mississippi State is a damn good team, and to go out there and not fight, they embarrassed us. So we had to go through Christmas and enjoy Christmas with family, but we knew we had to get back to business, and we knew that we couldn't let Ole Miss come in here and do the same thing that Mississippi State had done.
This would have been the first time, had you lost this one, this would have been the first 3-game losing streak at home the program had since Tubby's last season here. What did it mean, do you think, to be able to avoid that today, especially beating a Mid-South rival SEC opponent in the process?
Yeah, it's tough because when you bring all these top teams in here, if you don't come to play, then you're going to get beaten, right? So we lost to a tough Arkansas State team, a tough Mississippi State team, and then we had to be tough today. That's what we've been doing in all our wins, being the tougher team. And today we were the tougher team. So definitely didn't want to lose 3 in a row at home because that just doesn't send a good message to our fans and to the rest of the league from us, because anybody would feel like they could come in here and win.
Did you see, you got 37 points from Danger, from Jourdain, and from Cisse. So a big production offensively from your bigs. Did you see something on tape that you felt you can exploit the Ole Miss front line, which is not really big?
Yeah, well, they're a team that switches usually 1 through 5. And we had so much time to prepare and we had so much rest that we could actually put together a really nice game plan to kind of every time they switched to take advantage of it. And even when they went with the bigs, it was timely post-ups because we had other actions going on the weak side to try to, get the ball inside the Dane or to Musa. And then lastly, we baited the double teams. We knew where the double teams were going to come from because they did the same thing that Mississippi State did last week. Mississippi State was very successful with it. We were ready for it again this week.
Penny, you've often talked about this being a different era of college athlete and you not being able to go maybe as hard as you want to on guys like Larry Finch and other coaches were on you. Between last year and this year, what have you learned about the balance between, laying that hammer down like you did this week and also massaging egos and building guys up?
Yeah, you'll lose guys in today's time if you're just always putting the hammer down and, using these choice words and making them feel like they're not doing anything correctly. In our day, that was normal, but in today's time, you got to pick your moment. And because we didn't fight last week, I had every right to come in pissed off and doing what I did. So that's the message from this point on. We have to understand, do we understand yet? Because we can't fall back now because we're done with the non-conference, because it's going to get even tougher because everybody's expecting for us to win every game. So every game now is a big game. So we can't lose our fight ever again. If the ball's not falling, who cares? We still have to fight. They were looking like I was crazy because they don't really see that. So I try to treat them like pros. I was like, I'm going to treat you like young men, trying to be men, and that like a pro. And then when you cross that line and don't do what you're supposed to do, then I'm definitely going to put the hammer down. And they were definitely shocked, but they understood why. They knew I was on edge. If you ask either one of those guys, they'll say, oh, he was different this week.
Hey, Penny, just off the back of that, from what you've seen from this team in non-conference play, just how confident are you that they're going to be able to go through this conference play and go in and play in March?
Well, every game is going to be tough because, again, we're going to be the hunted, right? And we've shown when we're the hunted that we'll not play as hard as we need to because we think we're just going to win the game. Well, that mindset has to change. They're not going to give us anything. We have to take every game one by one in conference. We're picked number 2. UAB is the favorite. So, we just have to continue to have that same edge that we had today and never lose it.
When you made the midseason edition, how much did you weigh needing the backcourt depth versus knowing what you have with the 3-man rotation up front, but then also maybe come tournament time or whatever, if there's foul trouble or something happens with 1 or 2 of those 3, how much did you weigh that? And are you done, or is the door still open for anything?
I'm never going to say never. But yeah, I had when Dante came available because he was graduating at Virginia and we knew that he was in the portal. It was definitely a mutual thing because he had been watching us, and you can always use an extra ball handler and an extra defender. And I did say last year, not knocking Jalen Young or anybody else, that we needed one more point guard that could just kind of get the thing done this year. Barack Okogie, I'm not worried about him. I know he's going to play hard. He's going to play. Same thing with PJ Carter at the guard spot. But I felt like we needed one more. We were supposed to get Daniel Tuck earlier in the year, and that fell through. And then we were supposed to get another guard that fell through. And then I was always looking for another guard because that 3-man rotation can't play 37, 38 minutes per night, and then be fresh for the conference tournament and then the NCAA tournament. Thank you. Yeah, Merry New Year.
All right, that was head coach Penny Hardaway of the Memphis Tigers talking about the Memphis Tigers win over Ole Miss 87-70. I'm confident there will be some players who come up as well. I don't know who's going to come up to the microphone and talk, but I'm sure there will be players who come in. But until that moment happens, I'm going to send this to a commercial break. And if there are players who come into the press room to give their thoughts, I will send this to the FedEx Forum. I see players actually right now. So give me 1 second. Trying to communicate with the feeds, trying to make sure I'm on the same page. Give me a sec. Yeah, let me just send this to a commercial break right now. And you'll either see me on the other side or you'll see the FedEx Forum and hear from players. See y'all on the other side.
Taylor Jenkins is a very, very smart coach. He's way too smart for the deficiencies that he does have. Game planning, strategy.
I've always thought that, yeah.
Developing guys, the way he wants to try to utilize guys. That shit is smart. Like, I'm almost say damn near genius level. But the fact that he has the rotation problems, knowing when to pull guys, that part I don't understand. Like, it don't add up. Because when you hear people like,
is he too smart for his own? That's what
I'm starting to think. It might be some shit
when
like
you think about it, most coaches are.
Because on one end, I think he's a really smart coach. And other end, I think he's a goof. And it's like, bro, but like, hearing the stories that people say about him, the guys on his team,
yeah,
like, bro, he's got to be. I don't know, bro. They love him, and I
don't never have anything bad to say about him.
Would you ever just go, let me just trust the guys that are with him, the guys that are playing for him?
I want to, bro, but them playoff games, bro, you don't get them over, bro. Like,
tune in to the Anthony Sane Show Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
I don't like rentals. I don't like, going for it. I don't want Jimmy Butler. I want the guy that comes in here and we know we've got 2 to 3 years with him. He's young. He fits the timeline of our core, and somebody you would re-sign because this window is open. So I want somebody that sticks with it because I value continuity.
The Grizzlies are in an excellent position right now where they can make a lot of stuff work. They're not hard kept by any of the aprons. They've got the contracts. They can do a lot. I don't want more depth right now. I really don't, because we got one of the best benches, if not the best in the league. And I don't want to add to that concoction and make things hard.
The big name that New Orleans would want back in a Herb Jones deal is Santi Aldama. And are we sure we want to make that trade? Is it a vast upgrade?
If the boat doesn't appear to need to be rocked, then why would you rock it? And we haven't even talked about Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams Jr. are coming back soon.
Tune in to The Daily Grind with your host, Lute Hatmaker, every Monday through Friday at 7:30 a.m. live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, welcome back to Tigers Live. I'm your host, Francis Carlota, here for Tigers Live for Bluff City Media. It'll just be me. We won't get the feed for the players, but that's all good. Got a lot of things to talk about anyway, especially after hearing the thoughts from both Chris Beard and Penny Hardaway. It's always good to hear from the coaches, especially to hear from Penny Hardaway. First, I'll touch on what was said from Ole Miss coach Chris Beard. It was pretty clear to him that Ole Miss didn't match the energy that Memphis had from the start of this game. They didn't do a good job valuing each possession, and Memphis was way more ready emotionally than Ole Miss was at the start of the first half and the start of the second half. I talked about how good Memphis was to start the second half, and it's clear that Chris Beard saw the same thing because that really dictated the game. Memphis was, I mean, pretty much you could say the momentum was starting to swing to Ole Miss's side, especially entering halftime with the way Memphis played to close the half. I mean, the halftime score was just 38-36. This was a 2-point game entering half, and you thought to yourself, well, here we go, a barn burner in the FedEx Forum against Ole Miss. Here we go, let's do it. And that's just not what happened. Memphis pulled away pretty much immediately. They did a great job pushing the pace, moving the ball, playing much better lockdown defense, and being emotionally invested and ready to come out of locker room than Ole Miss was. So yeah, that start of the second half was massive for the rest of this ball game. Coach Chris Beard was very complimentary of Colby Rogers as well. He also complimented Penny a lot for drawing up sets, spacing the floor, allowing Colby to get really good looks from the floor. And he also was really complimentary of Tyrese Hunter and Musa Cisse. Both players, former players of Chris Beard. Tyrese Hunter played for Chris Beard at Texas, and I apologize to the media member who said this. It was either Jason Munz or Gary Parrish. I'm sorry to both of you if I'm misremembering who I heard this from, but either one of them stated that, I might have been Jason Munz, but either way, talked to Chris Beard after, and it was just after Memphis had lost to Arkansas State, and Memphis came up naturally in conversation between those two, and Chris Beard was clear that Memphis, this won't be a big deal. The loss to Arkansas State, no big deal. They'll get back on track, and the reason why is because of Tyrese Hunter. Chris Beard has nothing but good things to say about Tyrese. He said that Tyrese won't let this team go off the rails. And you heard similar things in this press conference when he was very complimentary of Tyrese Hunter, of the man he is, the player he is. He thought Tyrese Hunter had a great game, which will probably be a shock to all of you, considering Tyrese had 4 points, 3 assists. So he did have 3 steals. He played really well on the defensive side. He had 2 turnovers. He had 5 boards, but this was not the best Tyrese Hunter game by any stretch of the imagination. But in Chris Beard's eyes, Tyrese had a great game because he was a really good point guard running the offense and also played great on defense. So yeah, that just goes to show that this roster is full of guys that know how to win basketball games, and hopefully that pays dividends as Memphis goes through the conference play. Very complimentary of Musa as well. He said once a player of his program, always a player of his program. He very complimentary of Musa, that he said that Musa is one of the best players in the country when Musa is playing his game. And again, he played his game today. Musa was absolutely amazing. Musa Cisse, 13 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, 5 of 8 from the free throw line as well. He was a monster. 1 steal. He was amazing. Musa played probably the best game of the year for him. And it's cool to see opposing coaches, a former opposing coach who used to coach the same player, be very complimentary of a player who now doesn't play for him anymore. So yeah, definitely good to see. And then you saw from Penny Hardaway in his press conference, as always, really insightful things from Penny. He started off by being very clear that this non-conference slate wasn't easy. To be 10-3 after this schedule where every game was grueling, every game was hard, you can't really beat it. And he was also very complimentary of the crowd. He said it was an unbelievable crowd after laying an egg last week against Mississippi State. He also mentioned how that game was likely due to being just super fatigued against Mississippi State, coming after the road game against Virginia. I talked to Kenny Stubblefield just the other day, me and him chopping it up, and he told me that he was at a Memphis Tigers event, at main event in Cordova, and Nick Jourdain went up to Kenny and he put his head on Kenny's shoulders and said, "I'm exhausted." He just straight up told him that I'm tired. And it was clear to Kenny, so I was sure it was clear to the coaching staff, to everybody there, that this team was kind of just out of gas. And y'all, I obviously watched the Mississippi State game. You all watched the game as well. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like it makes sense, don't it? That team was super fatigued because the way they played, the passes they made or lack thereof, the just bad decisions littered throughout the game, the lack of effort, the lack of fight. That's the result of a tired team. And Penny talked about it. They only had 2 hours of practice entering the Mississippi State game, which is pretty wild. That's a wild thing to think about. So it was good to see that Penny did a more conscious effort to get the most out of his team entering the Ole Miss game. He talked about it a lot in his press conference, that he was really hard on the guys throughout all of the practices. He basically treated them like pros because that's what they need to be treated like. He laid the hammer down when needed, and he wasn't just going to let last week's performance fly. It's one thing to lose. It's another thing to give up. And that is something that Penny said he's not going to let that fly. It's something you saw a lot from last year's team as well. It's unfortunate. I'm not trying to be rude or nothing, but you saw that a lot from last year's team. And I was very confident this year that wouldn't happen. We saw it one time against Mississippi State, but I'm glad that it got corrected really quickly. And Penny Hardaway and the coaching staff was clear that they're not going to let that happen again. He also had a really good talked really well about the balance of laying the hammer down and also massaging egos. He said, yeah, in today's day and age, you're going to lose guys if you're always putting the hammer down, using those choice words, making them feel like they're not doing anything right. But today, or not today, before the practices, since they didn't fight against Mississippi State, he believed that he had every right to come in pissed off, make them run those sprints, make them basically give them the hardest practice they've had all year, and treat them like pros. So I think credit to Penny, credit to the coaching staff for being cognizant of the situation and having them work hard in practice, and credit to the players. Credit to the players for being mentally ready for this game. It's an aspect of sports that is underlooked. The mentality of the game. To be locked in, to get yourself in the right mindset is not as much easier said than done. And so credit to the players for getting themselves in the right mindset as well. As JD Denise said, shout out JD, that has to be tough when NIL, these guys will leave. That's why I feel it's so tough in college, no clamp down loyalty. Yeah, it's definitely the balancing act that these coaches have to do. And it takes time to learn. And I really believe it, that Penny's starting to hit his groove as a collegiate coach. He's starting to press the right buttons. He's starting to learn how to balance things as a coach. And that's so difficult, y'all. It's so difficult. But I think he's starting to do a really good job of that. He's done a really good job thus far. So yeah, it was cool to hear Penny talk about that as well. He got asked about Dante Harris. If you all didn't know, Memphis just signed Dante Harris, transfer from Virginia. He's a midseason acquisition. He was in the transfer portal, hadn't played a game for Virginia, which made him eligible immediately to play for the Memphis Tigers. About a 5'11", 6-foot guard. Might be getting his height wrong off the top of my head, but he's a guard who had some good moments at Georgetown. I think he averaged around 11 points a game at Georgetown. Transferred to Virginia last season. Didn't have a good year. It took him some time, but I hope that he can come in and find some rhythm and really, contribute in a positive way for this team. So, but he said that Dante on-ball defense was great. He thinks he's one of the best defensive guards in the country, and he's only had a couple practices. So to see Dante play like that tonight with basically a new squad was encouraging. So I'm excited to see what he's got for the rest of the year. He obviously talked about Colby Rogers stepping up. Colby was phenomenal. Good to see him step up as well. Colby works harder than anyone else on the shot, but he's his own toughest critic. So being 1 for 19 the last 2 games put him in a bad space mentally. But Penny, again, being a good coach, being there for his guy, talked to him a couple times, told him to stay aggressive, told him that we don't care if you miss shots, Colby. You're not going to make everything. You miss, that's cool. Just go back, play defense, rebound, do winning plays to impact winning if your shot's not falling. And I think that's an important message for an absolute lethal shooter that Colby Rogers has been throughout his entire career. You're still not going to knock everything down. You're not going to make every shot. That's just not humanly possible. So when those slumps come, it's good for Penny to get into Colby's head and talk him up. Similar degree, he was talking to Cisse all week. He said it was in his ear all week. And if he plays like that, it's going to be a great end of the year. Fully agree. If Cisse gives the Memphis Tigers this same performance throughout the entire year, yeah, could be a very good end of year. As an aside, hearing Penny say that about Musa reminded me of Mark Jackson and Reggie Miller. I don't know if you all have seen the Reggie Miller 30 for 30, but it's a great 30 for 30 if you haven't seen it. But it reminded me of Mark Jackson always being in Reggie Miller's ear saying, "Oh, they don't think you're good enough. Oh, you're not that good. You can't shoot that well." And show them they're doubting you. That kind of reminded me of that. Just Penny being in Moose's ear, knowing that he just left Ole Miss to go to Memphis for a better opportunity, and this was a big game, a little revenge game for Musa, and Musa was absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's a quick recap for both of those press conferences from Chris Beard and Penny Hardaway. I want to talk about I see all. First of all, before I keep going, I see all the comments, and I'm going to get to them in just a bit. I will get to them in just a moment. I see them. Don't worry. But I do want to talk about my moment of the game because it was. I feel like it may have gotten glossed over by some. It might have been, but it was pretty dang big. So Memphis looked like things are going to unravel a little bit at the end of the second half, just slightly. Ole Miss cut the Memphis lead to 9 points, and you heard the announcer for ESPN state that Memphis, you don't want to play from behind against Memphis because they have such great guards and they're going to control the game. And as soon as the announcer said that, PJ throws a lazy pass, lazy turnover, which we didn't see much of throughout the entire game, but it was a lazy pass, lazy turnover, and Ole Miss had a wide open transition three that if that goes in, y'all, this is a 6-point game with about 4 minutes left. Like it's 3:30 left, something like that. It's a tight one. Like this game is not over if that three goes in. That forum's probably gonna get really tense if that three goes in. It does not fall, and what follows is a Colby Rogers three and a Dane Danger slam. So what could have been a 6-point Memphis lead turned into a 14-point Memphis lead. And that was curtains. That was game over. As Pete Pranica says for the Memphis Grizzlies, hammer, nail, coffin, this baby's over. That was that moment right there with the Dane Danger slam following the Colby Rogers three, pushing the Memphis lead to 14. That was it. This game was done. You could chalk this one up as a W for the Memphis Tigers. So that for me was definitely the moment of the game. It was good to see Memphis continue to push, continue to keep their foot on Ole Miss's neck. They never really let up besides that moment that PJ just threw the ball to Ole Miss. Besides that moment, Memphis never really took the foot off the gas, never took their foot off Ole Miss's neck. They did a really good job controlling the game from start to finish, as Roman brought up earlier on in the show. So that's definitely my moment of the game. And after that, like I said, this one was done. This one was done. So yeah, this was a fantastic win. So let me get to the comments here that I've been seeing. As Coach Wayne Kelly says, who's a former basketball coach himself, I love everything Petty said in his press conference. I hope he keeps that balance between building up and putting the hammer down. Yeah, that's by far it's one of the hardest things to figure out as a coach, is finding that balance and recognizing that your team is full of different people, full of different personalities. Saying one thing to one player isn't going to work for the other player. It's just not. They're different people. You have to figure out how to manage all the different personalities. And that's even harder in today's age of NIL. So Bill, 7 years to hit his groove. What do you expect, Bill? You expect him to find his groove immediately because he's a god or something? No, that's insane. It's hard to be a coach in college Division I basketball, high level Division I college basketball. It's difficult. You know, you talk about Taylor Jenkins as a coach in the NBA for the Grizzlies, and it's taken him time to find his groove as a coach, but it's paying off. Taylor Jenkins has been great so far for the Grizzlies. Same thing for the Tigers of Penny Hardaway. It's paying off. You have to give coaches time to instill their own offensive defensive system, but also their philosophy as human beings onto players. And that's even harder in today's age of NIL, where if you don't pay a guy on time, or if you say the wrong thing or contract gets broken or whatever, they're out of there. And there's no restraints on that. They can just leave whenever they want to for whatever reason they want to. So it's even harder now. So I don't want to hear anybody say, "Oh, it took them 7 years." Yeah, it takes time. It takes time to build a program. It's really difficult. And I appreciate that Memphis has trusted Penny thus far. You know, I will say I'll pump the brakes a little bit because self-conference play. They still have to play good basketball in conference to make it to March. But if they do, and if they make noise in March, I'm confident to state that I think Penny Hardaway could be a coach of the year. If Memphis does what they should do in the AAC, if Memphis goes into the NCAA tournament, makes noise, when I say makes noise, makes to the second weekend, Sweet 16, Elite 8, hell, they're in a Final Four. Oh, come on. But at the very least, makes noise second weekend. Yeah, I think Penny Hardaway should be in the running for Coach of the Year. And that what I just said also might sound dumb because Coach of the Year might be awarded before the NCAA tournament. So let's just say if Memphis does what they should do in conference play and wins the AAC, hell, what if they go undefeated in conference play? What if that happens? Who knows? But I think Penny has a real chance at being Coach of the Year with the resume that he's built, because I think he has done a phenomenal job this year. As Memphis Made said, good job, Penny. You heard Penny talk about in his press conference how he game planned for this game against Ole Miss. And it was really insightful to hear him. Let me see if I can find the comments really quickly that he said about the game plan. Yeah. So he said Ole Miss switches 1 through 5. So he made sure to put together a really nice game plan to take advantage of every time they switched. The offensive sets they ran had timely post-ups with also off-ball action as a bit of a smoke and mirror to kind of distract them for where they really wanted the ball to go. And they also knew where the double teams were going to come from against Ole Miss, because Ole Miss runs a similar defense as Mississippi State does with the double team, the ball in the post. And so Penny had a great game plan for this game. And I think you have to credit him. You have to credit the coaching staff, and obviously credit the players for buying into the game plan and executing it very well today. This was a really good win, y'all. Really good win. I saw a comment from before. Let me pull it up in just a moment. Give me a second. I saw this comment from Gordon Harwell. A win like this doesn't instill confidence. Ole Miss can hit the side of a barn. I'm not really sure what would instill confidence for you then, Gordon. And I'm not saying this to be an asshole or to be rude. I really mean it. What would it take to instill confidence for you? And to all the people, to all the vocal minority who are upset about Memphis losing to Mississippi State and the fact that they got blown out and they still haven't proven to you that this team is for real, then I ask you, would you rather be Ole Miss entering this game, or would you rather be Memphis entering this game? Ole Miss's strength of schedule up to this point was 227th. Memphis was second in the country, second in strength of schedule. Would you have rather have scheduled games against Long Island, against Grambling, against South Alabama, against Lindenwood, against Southern, against Queens, Southern Miss, Oral Roberts, South Alabama? Are those the games you would have rather scheduled? Would seeing Memphis beat the brakes off of those teams in the non-conference, would that have instilled confidence into you all, who still don't think this team is different, who still don't believe in this Memphis Tigers team, who still don't believe in Penny Hardaway, would that have instilled confidence in you? Or would have instilled confidence for Memphis to schedule the second toughest schedule in the country up to this point, beat number 2 UConn in Maui, beat Michigan State, a ranked Michigan State team. Yes, they lost to Auburn. Okay. Beat Louisiana Tech, who's favored to win their conference. Yes, lose to Arkansas State at home, but again, favored to win their conference, and then go 3-1 on this stretch of games where they go at Clemson, ranked number 16 in the country at the time, at Virginia. Yes, it's not Tony Bennett's Virginia, but it's still Virginia's defense, and it's still a road game. And then you go at home against Mississippi State on a short turnaround, and yes, they lay an egg. We are well aware of that. They laid an egg. But then they get their shit together against a good Ole Miss team that was ranked 16th in the country. And then they beat the brakes off of them, y'all. They controlled this game from start to finish. They beat Ole Miss by 17. Does that not instill confidence in y'all? I don't get it. You can't please everybody. No question. I'm sure there are people watching this show who think I suck, who think I'm really bad at this, and like, oh, whatever. You can't please everybody. I'm well aware. No question. But damn, y'all, what does this team got to do? Go undefeated in the AAC, win the AAC tournament, and then win the NCAA tournament? Is that what it'll take for you all to believe in this Tigers team? Man, I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. This has been a hell of a non-conference run for the Memphis Tigers to go 10-3 with a strength of schedule that's ranked second in the country. With how many quad one wins do they have now? They got 4 quad 1 wins. They're now 8-2 against quad 1 and quad 2. Y'all, not many teams can say that at this point. Not many teams. So the only thing I'll say to y'all before I get out of here, close out this show, is let's see what happens in conference play. That'll be the deciding factor for the Memphis Tigers. What happens in the AAC? Because we saw it last year. They were at a good spot entering conference play, and everything changed. Everything changed. So let's see what happens this year. If Memphis can get it together, can continue this run of form, continue to build off of a really, really impressive non-conference record. If they can build off of that and run through the AAC like we know they can, then it's an exciting times in Memphis for the Memphis Tigers. So next week, January 2nd, they go at FAU. That game will be at 6 p.m. on ESPN2. FAU is not the FAU of past. There's no question about that. They're 7-6 right now. They have bad losses at Charleston. They've lost to Drake. They lost to Florida Gulf Coast University. This is not the FAU of the past. We know that. Obviously, losing Dusty May, losing their guys in the transfer portal. This is not the FAU of the past. But at the same time, it's still a true road game. It's still a road game in that small ass gym that's basically like the MUS gym. It's basically what it is. It's the same size. Maybe MUS's gym might be bigger, I think. So, and it's a gym that Memphis didn't win at last year. So if Memphis can go into FAU, get another good win there, and keep the momentum going, just keep it rolling, keep it going, then this team will. Let's see what happens. But yeah, conference play. That's what it's come down to. We're now here, Memphis, 10-3 after the non-conference schedule. That was second in the country. They have an impressive record against quad 1, quad 2. This team has basically done their job up to this point. Now the question is, can they continue to do their job against the AAC teams where they're going to be the hunted and not the hunters? Yet to be seen. But I got to say, I believe in this team, and I think you all should too. So go Tigers. Shout out to everybody in the comments. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you haven't already, subscribe to Bluff City Media. Hit the like button. Like the show. subscribe to Bluff City Media. Join the Bluff City Media Discord as well. We're always talking in there, talking about Memphis Tigers hoops and about really Memphis sports in general. So join the Discord and follow me on X at Slugga Sports. Find us on X, Blue Sky Bluff City Media. And until next time, y'all. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Tigers Live. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.